And can we start?
We'll wait for 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Singer Villain, sir?
Oh, Deepali,
Yeah. The slides are changing.
is it clear?
Yeah, it is clear. Sir, can you see the slide show is working, sir?
No, 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 no,
No.
no.
Now is it working?
No, no.
Share screen कर दो.
No.
No. तिथे खाली हे येते ना. Cross.
Sharing is paused until you return to the share.
Now you do.
ते त्यांना बोलून
Now it's working.
Okay. No, no. Do it full screen.
full screen.
Slide is changing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Include system audio. Shall I call this?
पाच मिनिटामध्ये दोन होईल.
Rolling.
A very warm good morning to all the participants. I, Dr. Deepali Hande, coordinator of Srimati Sindhutai Eknatharav Vikhe Patil, Spinal Cord Injury Rehabilitation Center, welcome you all on the occasion of World Spinal Cord Injury Day. In order to provide healthcare to rural and tribal masses of this region, Pravra Medical Trust was established in 1972, appreciating the academic, research, and healthcare activities undertaken by the Trust. Government of India recognized this institution as Pravra Institute of Medical Sciences deemed to be university in 2003. Today, this institution is recognized as one of the finest institutions of India, unique with its location and the outreach activities that is being carried out and provided for the population of around 6 lakhs. Our university is a unique feat with 6 institutions operational under one banner. In small village like Loni, our multi-specialty hospital provides the best healthcare to thousands of patients near and far. Pravra Rural Hospital has been conferred National Award under the category of Best Institution for providing services to senior citizen and awareness generation by His Excellency late Honorable President of India Shri Pranab Mukherjee at New Delhi on October 1st, 2015. This place has a history of social transformation which began 100 years ago, and today the entire region has become a land of prosperity and role model for the entire country. This change is accredited to our founding father, late Sri Padma Shri Dr. Vittalrao Vikhe Patil, and his son, late Sri Padma Bhushan Dr. Barasaheb Vikhe Patil. The physiotherapy department was established in 1976, and to extend the rehabilitation services, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam College of Physiotherapy was established in 1997. The institution is named after His Excellency Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, as we are really fortunate that Abdul Kalam sir visited Pravra Institute of Medical Sciences on 15th October 2005 on his birthday and distributed around 1400 flow reaction orthoses to differently able children. This college has produced nation's finest physiotherapists each passing year who are working across the globe. The institution is flourishing under the able leadership of Honorable Pro-Chancellor Dr. Rajendra Vikhe Patil and Honorable Vice-Chancellor Dr. Y.M. Jayaraj. This institution offers undergraduate program in physiotherapy since its inception and post-graduation program from the year 2005 in the 5 specialties, namely orthopedic physiotherapy, neurophysiotherapy, cardiorespiratory physiotherapy, community physiotherapy, and pediatric physiotherapy. The institution also offers Doctor of Philosophy program in physiotherapy from the academic year of 2010 and 11. This institution has Linus Palme student exchange program under which the students get full scholarship to visit prestigious university that is Karolinska Institute Sweden and many other European universities under different program. Before starting the webinar, we must pay our tribute and acknowledge the inspiring vision and conviction of our great visionaries who pioneered the movement of knowledge and created future direction for thousands of our fellow beings. Our founding father, late Shri Padma Shri Dr. Vittal Rao Vikhe Patil, late Padma Bhushan Dr. Bala Sahib Vikhe Patil and mother of soil, Srimati Sindhutai Vikhe Patil. Our visionary leader and founding father, Honorable Padma Bhushan Dr. Balasaheb Vikhe Patil, who have worked for rural and tribal population, awakened and enlightened them with the unique theme of Think Globally, Act Locally. Taking his legacy forward, our President and Honorable Pro Chancellor Dr. Rajendra Vikram Patil sir conceptualized the establishment of Srimati Sindhutai Eknath Vikhe Patil Spinal Cord Injury Rehabilitation Center during his visit to Sweden Karolinska Institute in 2014. We physiotherapists add life to years because just survival is not enough. Here in SCI Rehab Center, we all are working towards a goal of improving quality of life of spinal cord injury patients and make them independent in the community. Now, I request Dr. Singargalan sir, who is professor and head of the Department of Neurophysiotherapy, to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Deepali. Good morning to all. On behalf of Srimati Sindhutai Eknath VK Patil, Spinal Cord Injury Rehab Team, and the Department of Neurophysiotherapy, Dr. ABJ Abdul Kalam College of Physiotherapy, Pravara Institute of Medical Sciences, myself, Dr. Singara Velan, Professor, Head of the Department of Neurophysiotherapy. Welcome Dr. Uttara Mohan for the webinar session on outdoor mobility skills and community participation of spinal cord injury patients. Dr. Uttara Mohan completed her Bachelor of Physiotherapy Institute, Pune, Master of Physiotherapy in Neurology from Manipal University. She is also a certified practitioner in neurodynamic treatment, certified by Neurodynamic Solutions Australia, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation level 3A from IPNFA USA. Also, Mulligan concept of mobilization from Karp Institute, New Delhi. Also, she completed the WHO's wheelchair service training, basic level, from the International Society of Wheelchair Professionals. She's being a resource person for various workshops, conferences, and webinars related to spinal cord injury and neurorehabilitation. Dr. Uttara Mohan received award for outstanding achievements in neurorehabilitation at Paraplegic Foundation in 2016. Gandhi Award for significant contribution to neurorehabilitation received at IFNR Conference 2017. Currently, she is working as a clinical therapist in Mumbai. Once again, I welcome Dr. Uttara Mohan for this webinar session. I'm very sure that all participants will get very good learning experience from this webinar. Thank you. Over to Dr. Uttara Mohan.
Thank you, sir, for the kind introduction. I'll start with sharing my screen. Okay. So today I'll be talking more in terms of outdoor mobility and the community participation. So when we have a patient of spinal cord injury, we rehabilitate them to become independent in their functional activities. It's also important that they use these skills to go outdoor, to be independent in their community level, to have a good social interaction and participate in the community. So what all things we can consider in our rehab for this community level participation, and what skills and what guidelines we are going to give to the patient is what I'll be talking about today. So when it comes to a community mobility and the participation, there are a lot of factors that we see First thing is the environmental accessibility. So depending on the patient's level of injury and the skills, abilities that they have learned, so accordingly the patient's community mobility is going to be there. So what we need is a good training of, say, of the patient's wheelchair skills. If patient is ambulatory, in case of an incomplete injury, the ambulation should be well trained. Also, we have to encourage them to participate, like in terms of any social events, hobbies, interaction with the peers, with friends, relatives, participate in recreational activities. These are also very important in the patient's socializing within the community. Also, one of the main factors which patients often ask us is the employment, especially if, say, the patient was the earning member of the family and because of the spinal cord injury, they are not able to earn. So then their main concern is to again get back to a job and start earning. So these are the common questions they have in their mind. So our rehab should continue to training of their skills and functional abilities so that they can be independent within their home environment and also in the community. So as far as social participation and community participation is concerned, one more aspect we need to see is based on the patient's skill and seeing the indoor and outdoor environment, we can accordingly prescribe appropriate wheelchairs to the patient. We can train the patient for the wheelchair skills, and whichever environment we can modify, like the indoor environment or within our patient's capacity, we can modify as per the patient's needs to make them functionally independent. So for the explanation purpose, I'll be showing photos and videos of my patients. So these have been taken with their consent. So when it comes to the skills, wheelchair skills, say if the patient is not able to ambulate or patient needs walking aids, orthosis to ambulate and the energy consumption is more. So then most likely for outdoor mobility, they might be using a wheelchair instead of walking. So we have to train them for the outdoor skills. Especially in India, there are a lot of environmental barriers that we come across. So we have to make sure that the patient learns these skills and is able to mobilize outdoors also. Okay, so when it comes to going up the slope, you can see in this. Okay, so when you train a patient for the first time, you need to make sure that you're standing behind the wheelchair. This, for the recording purpose, I have not been standing. This patient has been trained for the going up the slope. So in the environment, whenever the patient comes across slopes, uh, the terrain, so we have to make sure that the patient learns these skills. So first and foremost thing while going up slope is the patient has to lean slightly forward to keep their body weight forward. Otherwise, there are risk of the wheelchair flipping backward, and also there's risk of patient falling backwards. So first thing is the patient has to lean forward, and it has to be quick, long strokes of propulsion, not short arcs. So you can see the patient's right hand position. So that is the position behind where the patient can reach. From there, they have to propel as much forward as possible. Once they propelled it forward, they can lift their hand, move it back to the backward position, and then again propel. And one of the important factors that we train for the patient is if suppose if there is a long slope and the patient gets fatigued, how they can stop in between the slope and take a break until the fatigue is cleared up and they can continue going up the slope or down the slope again. So like you can see in this, the patient is parked the wheelchair horizontally. So by doing it this way, what happens is the wheelchair will not slip off the slope and the patient can take rest. Once the patient is rested, they can again turn the wheelchair in the direction of slope and continue ambulating. You can see again. So it's forward lean and you can see the quick propulsions. So again to pause, this is the way to rotate the wheelchair horizontally. And once the patient is rested, they can continue propelling forward. So these are the skills you will be training. Initially, you will have to be on the posterior side of the patient. For the safety, you can keep your hand on the patient's shoulder, anterior aspect of shoulder. In case the patient starts falling forward, you can hold them. And you have to make sure the wheelchair doesn't tip backward. So these things you will have to make sure. And also for this training, if you feel the patient is not very stable, you can use Potter strap. Again, for the spotter strap, I'll be talking further and I'll show you how it is being positioned. Okay. So when it comes to down the slope, it is more of a controlled movement. So when we have slopes, sometimes you can see the slope here, it is not even. So these barriers are also there. So the patient has to be trained effectively. Again, the physiotherapist will be on the posterior side of the patient to make sure the wheelchair doesn't flip, and one hand on the one of the shoulders, one hand holding the wheelchair push rim on the posterior side will help to control the wheelchair and the patient position so that the patient doesn't fall off and the wheelchair doesn't flip. So when it comes to going down the slope, the patient has to do a controlled movement. The patient will be holding the push rim and gradually allowing it to slide forward from his hand. So it should be a slow controlled movement, like how we drive our vehicles on a down slope. We use the brake to have a slow movement, otherwise the vehicle goes down fast. In the same way, the patient has to control the movement and go downward. Again, for taking breaks, the patient can rotate the wheelchair horizontally and take rest when they are tired. So you can see the patient is holding the push rim in the same position, letting the rim slide gradually from their hand without allowing it to go very fast. And again, in this down the slope, the patient has to be resting their spine on the back support of the wheelchair and not lean forward. If the patient lean forwards, there is high risk of patient falling out of wheelchair seat. Okay, these skills can be trained for patients from C6 level onwards, that is C6 neurological level in case of complete injury. In case of incomplete injury, it will depend from patient to patient based on the motor skills below the level of injury, how much muscle strength the patient has below the level of injury, and how much those muscles can be used in this wheelchair skills. So when it comes to C6 and C7 patients, they usually use the tenodesis grasp to push the push rim and control, whereas the patients from T8 onwards will have a better grip and they can easily control the wheelchair push rim. So one more outdoor mobility factor is training the patient to do a wheelie. When patients come across uneven surfaces, slopes, or if we have like potholes, like you could see in the previous video, the lower end of the slope was uneven and rough. So there is high risk of even the caster wheel, the wheel on the front, getting stuck on the pothole or on the depression in the ground, and then the patient can suddenly get a jerk on the wheelchair and the patient might fall off the chair. So these things have to be taken care of. So the patients who are able to learn the wheelie training, they can learn this wheelie skill and it's very useful for going outdoors on uneven surfaces and on the slopes. So how you train a wheelie is, first we start with the indoor training, then go ahead with the outdoor training. So while training indoor, first thing is we explain to the patient about how to maintain the wheelie position. So the patient will have to first learn to maintain the position on their own. So like you can see on the left side image, you can stand behind the patient or you can take a stool and sit behind the patient. You hold the push handles on the posterior side, tilt the wheelchair backward to a short wheelie position. That is where the caster wheels, the front wheels are lifted off the ground and the wheelchair is balancing on the rear wheels. In this position, you ask the patient to hold the push rim, control the position and not let the wheelchair come back to a vertical position. And you hold from behind and gradually reduce your resistance. So ask the patient to hold for a few seconds and then again come get the caster wheel down. So this way you will be training. Alternate option is like you can see on the right hand side, if you have a low bed or a frame, you can tilt it against it, so it is more stable. So from your case, you can focus more on the patient's position and so that the patient doesn't fall forward. So these ways you can train for the wheelie position. So once the patient learns to hold the position, then further on you can teach them how the patient can go into the wheelie position on their own, and then how to come back to keeping the caster wheel down on the ground. So again, like some, you will have difficulty in tilting of the wheelchair to this backward tilted position. Easy way to tilt this is like you can see in the left side image, you will see what you can do is just so what you can do is in the lower end, just on the posterior side, the horizontal rim on the lower side of the wheelchair. There will be a protrusion on the posterior side. You can just place your one foot on it and push it down. So when you push it down and simultaneously pull the push rim backward, the wheelchair gets tilted into a wheelie position very easily. And you can, even if the patient is overweight or the wheelchair is heavy, you can still manage to single-handedly tilt the wheelchair easily. So this way you can get the wheelchair into a wheelie position and ask the patient to hold the position. So like I mentioned earlier, for the training on the slopes, we can make use of spotter strap. These are straps with loop on either end. One loop will be held by you on the upper end. The lower end, you will attach it to the base of the wheelchair. So here you can see on the left side, like if you have a horizontal, if you have a crossbar on below the wheelchair, you can attach it to the crossbar. Or if you have a horizontal bar on the posterior side below the wheelchair, you attach it to the horizontal bar. So usually the end which is attached to the wheelchair, it has a buckle or it has a Velcro strap by which it can be positioned and adjusted depending on your reach. You can adjust the length of the spotter strap also. This is easy to make. You can make it by with local orthotist. You can get it made easily. So what advantage this spotter strap has is whenever you're training for say a wheelie position, if you feel that the wheelchair is tilting backward and the patient is going to fall backward with the wheelchair, what you need to do is pull the spotter strap to a posterior and superior direction. Like you can see on the right side, you can see the hand position held. In that direction, when you pull it, automatically the wheelchair comes to a vertical position with very much ease, and it's quicker, so you can avoid the risk of patient wheelchair tipping. So this advantage is there, especially in the initial phases of training, when the high chances that the wheelchair might be unstable and tilt forward, tilt backward. So in that case, you can use a spotter strap. Once the patient has reached a certain level of training and able to stabilize the wheelchair on their own in a wheelie position or going up and down the floor, then you can wean off the spotter strap. So now once the patient has learned how to in a wheelie position, you teach them how to go into a wheelie position. To go into a wheelie position, first thing is patient has to sit upright and not lean forward. More they lean forward, more they will have pressure on the caster wheels on the front, and it will be difficult to tilt the wheelchair into a wheelie position. So when it comes to going into a wheelie position and holding the position, as per WHO guidelines, they call it as a partial wheelie. So in partial wheelie, you have to teach the patient how to do it. First thing is either they pull the push rim backward, reach to the posterior point of the push rim where they can reach, and with a quick propulsion forward, they have to pull the push rim forward and at the same time get the caster wheel off the ground. So you can see here how the patient is doing. So initially you will have to be next to the patient. Once the patient learns the skill, they can do it independently. So what you need to do is pull back and quickly pull forward while maintaining your spine on the backrest of the wheelchair. Teach the patient to hold the position for a few seconds and then let go and get the caster wheel down. So the caster wheel getting down also has to be controlled. It shouldn't be suddenly caster wheel dropping down. That will also increase the risk of damage to the wheels, and also a jerky movement to the wheelchair. The patient might even fall off the chair. So these things have to be trained. Again, like in the earlier training, like I mentioned for the slope and for the wheelie training, you can use the spotter strap. If you don't have a spotter strap, hold the push handle on the posterior side of the backrest with one hand. One hand preferably keep on the patient's shoulder, anterior side of any one shoulder, so you can prevent the patient falling out of the chair as well. So once the patient is learned for a partial wheelie, you will go ahead with training of a full wheelie. Full wheelie is when the patient maintains the wheelie position and propels the wheelchair forward, backward, or turning of the wheelchair. This is especially important for outdoor mobility, wherein the patient comes across any barriers, uneven surfaces, or say potholes or stones or on the ground, so they can maneuver around it, over it by using this wheelie technique. So the patient again will first train in the indoor environment, then go ahead with the outdoor environment. So you can see patient mostly tries to keep the hand in line vertical with the axle of the rear wheel. So more on the upper region. This helps to maintain the stability better, and it has to be a slow gradual movement forward and backward, maintaining the wheelie position. So you can train it one by one. You can first train the patient to go back forward in a wheelie position. Once the patient learns that, you can work on the backward, then you can work on turning in the wheelie position. So it's mainly a more of a control movement, propel the wheelchair forward, but at the same time, keep the wheelie position intact. So once the patient learns wheelie, often you see patients using the wheelie technique down the slope. What is the advantage of using wheelie down the slope is that when the patient has to go on a slope which has an uneven surfaces, like in the previous down the slope video, you could see lower end of the slope was uneven and rough. So sometimes what happens is when there are depressions on the ground, since the caster wheel is small, it gets stuck in the depression. It's difficult to pull the wheelchair out and it requires more effort. Or sometimes because of the caster wheel suddenly dropping down in the depression in the ground, what happens is the patient tends to be more unstable, the wheelchair jerks. So there is risk of even the patient falling off the seat and having instability. So for these reasons, when you don't have a smooth slope, patient can go down in a wheelie position. So you can see in this, patient first goes into wheelie and then again does a similar way controlled movement down the slope by holding the push rib and gradually letting it slide down. Once they reach the lower end of the slope, they can get the caster wheel down. So this is very effective more in terms of uneven surfaces. Now, which patients can learn wheelie is usually patients from T4 level or below are able to do wheelie. Uh, Spinal cord injury patients above T4 are not much able to. One thing is because in quadriplegic, again, the hand function may be an issue. And in higher level paraplegias about T4, what happens is the ability for the trunk control and for the maintaining the trunk position for the wheelie is much more difficult. So usually from T4 level onwards do wheelie. Patients below T6 are able to do higher angle of tilting of the wheelie compared to patients of T4 or T5 level. So if you have some big barrier, say you have a big stone on the ground, or the patient has to cross over it, or you have a high speed breaker and the patient tends to use wheelie to go across it. So then in that case, the patient with T6 or below injuries have much more ease at going into a wheelie position than the patients of T4 or T5 injury. So you can see in this, it's down the slope is the same way. Only difference is once the patient learns wheelie, learns down the slope, you can teach them to go down slope in a wheelie position. So again, one more important reason for training the wheelie is to go up and down a step or a curb. Like you can see, we have these barriers. Sometimes the ends of the footpath is not having a slope or an incline, so the patient cannot go up on their own. So in that case, you need to teach them how to use this wheelie technique to go up the curb and down the curb. So when it comes to going up the curb, what the patient will be doing is going into a wheelie position, lift the caster wheel off when they are near the curb, move forward on the rear wheel like doing a full wheelie for going forward. Once the patient reaches near the curb, they place the caster wheel on the footpath above and then pull the rear wheel up to climb up the curb. So you can see in this first wheelie position, placing the caster wheel down and lean forward and propel up like how they would do on a slope. So here they need a good amount of propulsion, good upper limb strength to pull the rear wheel up and step up. Okay. So you can see here. So again, in this, the wheelie skill is important. When it comes to a low height curb, maybe T4, T5, even T6 level of injury can manage much easily. When it comes to higher level curb, the patients below T6 find it much more easier compared to the higher level injuries. So they higher level injury like T4, T5, they will need more training. Lower levels paraplegics will do this much more easily once they are trained for the skill. Again, the training in similar way, you stand on the posterior side, make sure the wheelchair doesn't tilt backward, you make sure that the patient doesn't fall off the seat. So when it comes to down the slope, down the curb, same way the patient goes into a wheelie position. Otherwise, the caster wheel is going to slip off the edge of the curb and the patient is going to tilt forward and suddenly become unstable on the wheelchair. So the patient will go into wheelie position and gradually get the rear wheel down to the ground. So this is again, once the patient reaches the rear wheel on the edge, you can see the patient stop, maintain the control of the wheelie and gradually got the rear wheel down. So it is more of a control movement from the edge and gradual. If the control is not there, the wheel is going to drop down suddenly. So these things have to be taken care of. This is the best way to come down the curb in wheelie. If suppose the patient is not able to do this, some patients, what they do is they come down backward. So the patient turns backward, gets the rear wheel gradually down, and once the rear wheel is down, just keep pulling backward to get the caster wheel down. So if the patient is not good at wheelie, this is one option to come down the curb. For going up the curb, if the patient is not able to do, they will need some kind of help from some caregiver for going into a wheelie position to help manually to go into wheelie and go up the curb. Okay. Again, what happens is, what if the patient doesn't know to do wheelie, cannot go up and down the curb or a staircase? Like if, for example, like you could see up and down the curb, if there is a wide staircase, patient could use same technique to go up or down each step one at a time using the same technique. But in case the patient is not able to do wheelie, or here you can see the steps are very narrow, so here, this kind of up and down the curb with wheelie, same technique will not be applicable here because the rear wheel is not going to fit into the step. So in this case, you do it with assistance. There are two options. You can have two people assisting if the patient's upper limb strength is lacking, if the patient is not having the skills to assist, then two persons will do this. If the patient is able to assist, then one person on the posterior side of the patient and the patient helping is enough. So depending on the patient's ability, you will decide. In this, first thing is you tilt the wheelchair into a wheelie position and get the rear wheel near the edge of the lower step, you can see. And one more important thing you can see is my foot position. I am in a squat stance and one foot is on one step and the next foot is on the next step. By this way, you avoid strain on your spine and you can easily pull the wheelchair up. So here you can see in this, in case the patient is not able to assist, the other helper is going to be at the foot end of the wheelchair, are going to hold the footrest hanger, the vertical upright which comes from the seat towards the footrest. That footrest hanger will be held and the other helper will help to maintain the wheelie position and help to pull the wheelchair up. It is more of a synchronized movement. You can just count, or when you're ready, you just communicate to each other and pull the wheelchair up at the same time, both the helpers. If the patient is helping, the patient will pull at the same time. So they have, if the patient is helping, they're going to hold the, you can see the push rim on the front side. From there, they are going to pull up. So everyone has to pull at the same time and you go one step at a time. So you can see once, 1, 2, and 3, and then you pull it up. So once pulled up, again, the position has to go same way to the next step. So once you pulled up one step, again, the person on the posterior side will climb up one step, but then the foot has to be on each step, upper and lower step. The helper on the lower end will position themselves accordingly, and then you synchronize and pull up again. So in case of staircase, you can see as an outdoor barrier and the patient needs assistance, this is the way you can assist. Similarly, for going up and down a curb, also one person on the posterior side can tilt into a wheelie and help out. So these are the ways to do it. Okay, so if you're helping on a curb, going up the curb, doing same way with the wheelchair turned away from the direction of the progress, that is wheelchair facing, person facing down the curb, you can pull it up. So this is the easy way going up the curb or the staircase. So in case the patient has to go down the step with assistance. So again, here for understanding, I've shown with one person assistance. If the patient is able to help for going up and down the step, you can have only one person, you will not need two people. So same way in this, the patient has to go one step at a time. The patient has to first go into wheelie position, take the rear wheel to the edge of the step. Okay, it's a synchronized movement. The patient is going to gradually pull the wheelchair down to the lower step, and the person helping is also going to gradually control the wheelchair and take it to the lower step. So once on the lower step, again the foot position has to be moved forward and again go to the next step. So you can see again I've moved my foot to the next step. So one by one step the patient can be taken down. So in this it is important to train the caregiver uh, or helper who will be there with the patient to assist on the staircase if in case the patient has the staircase in their outdoor environment when they have to move outdoors. So when the patient are going, say, out by public transport, say for example, the patient is going by a cab, it is important to teach the patient how to transfer themselves from the wheelchair to the cab. So this you can expect patients from C6 level of injury onwards to shift, though the paraplegics will shift more easily than lower level quadriplegics. So in this, what you need to do is first the patient comes to the edge of the wheelchair seat. So once they are at the edge, they position one foot inside or both the feet inside, preferred is one foot. And then they put weight on the armrest of the wheelchair and weight on the seat, and they lift the pelvis and shift inside. So when it comes to a paraplegic, you can see this patient is a paraplegic, so easily lifted the pelvis. For the patients of higher level para or a quadriplegic like C6 or C7 level of injury, what they will do is they'll lean forward a little more to get their pelvis off because their upper limb and the trunk muscle strength is weaker. So along with the pelvic lift, by putting weight bearing on the upper limb, they'll be leaning forward a little to get their pelvis off and shift to the car seat. Okay. Same way to come from the car seat to the wheelchair, same steps in reverse. So get one of the foot on the footrest, one you can keep inside the car, and lift the pelvis and shift to the seat. So the hand position, all the movement is going to be in reverse. In this again, patients who are able to lift the pelvis easily will lift like you can see in this image. Whereas in the patients of higher level injury, they might do more of a trunk forward lean and try to lift the pelvis off. Okay. So when it comes to scooters, like some patients have modified scooters. So when it comes to a scooter, the patient has to learn to shift from the wheelchair to the scooter back to the wheelchair. This is possible for patients with lower level spinal cord injury. Usually patients with T6 and below use such modified scooters. Higher level injuries prefer going by car, self-driven cars, or with driver or by a cab, because sitting on the scooter requires good trunk stability. So some amount of trunk muscle strength and control is required for this. So you can see in this, the patient is doing in a similar way. So the patient has to place one foot on the footrest of the wheelchair, preferably the other foot on the scooter, and then they can shift up. Okay. So you can see in this. Okay, so some patients might vary a little, take the foot up first or later, depending on the comfort. Preferable is to have one foot on the scooter, one foot on the wheelchair seat, and then shift it. And after shifting, you can see this patient is one of the very few patients who manages to keep the wheelchair on in the side seat of the scooter on his own. Most of the patients take assistance of someone to lift the wheelchair and keep it on the side seat, or you use something like a wheelchair lift. But this patient, since the upper limb strength is very good and also the trunk control is good, he's lower level spinal cord injury, paraplegic. So he is with time learned to lift the wheelchair and place it on his own. But most people will require assistance for it. So same way you can see the patient is getting the wheelchair back out first. So you need a folding wheelchair in case of going by car or scooter so that the wheelchair can be folded and kept inside. So once the wheelchair is open, the patient will position the foot first. And you can see same steps in reverse, one foot on the footrest, one on the scooter, lift the pelvis and shift. Here the pelvic lifting required is much more because difference in the height of the wheelchair seat and the scooter. So patients with good amount of pelvic lifting, lower level paraplegics can do it, higher level will not be able to transfer to a scooter. And also few other things to consider is supports on the scooter. That patient was lower level injury, T12 injury, so he could easily manage with the transverse and sitting trunk control. You can see in this patient in scooter, he has side supports armrest. Some patients use a pelvic straps to when they're seated on the wheelchair so that if uneven surfaces, they don't slip off the seat. So the patient sometimes say if someone else is going to drive the scooter, they can be taught to shift from the scooter seat to the side seat. So one thing is the patient needs to modify the scooter by keeping side wheels. Some patients additionally keep a side seat wherein they can keep their bag or they can keep their wheelchair on the side seat. For those reasons, patients who are self-driving the scooter, they have a side seat. So same way, since the patient has the height difference is there, again the patient needs a good pelvic lift. So you can see same steps in reverse to go back from the side seat to the scooter seat. Place the foot out and then lift the pelvis. Again, while transferring from one surface to other, one hand has to be on the surface where the patient is on, other hand on the surface which the patient is going to reach to. So that way, lifting of the pelvis becomes easy and they can shift to the seat. So when it comes to a train transfer, so how does the patient do a train transfer? I think I'll switch over the screen share. Okay. So you can see here. So when it comes to a train transfer, again, BLE is required. A patient who travels independently by train or even with helpers, if they can manage to learn this skill, they can transfer on their own. So now you can see this is also a lower level paraplegic. T6 or below level of injury can be able to do this. This. So you can see the patient first goes into a wheelie position. Okay. Since the height of the train is a little higher, the patient is taking help of the supports, the handles on the side. First placing the caster wheel up, then pull themselves up. So you need a good trunk control, good upper limb strength, and good wheelie technique for doing this. Same way to come out. Same thing in reverse will be done. Okay. So when it comes to certain features of the wheelchair, which are very used for outdoor mobility based on the patient's strength and the wheelchair skills. This is an anti-tip bar. So in the horizontal bar or the crossbar on the posterior side, you can attach this. You can attach this to any wheelchair. It is available separately, which it can be bought and fitted. So this is very helpful when the patients are not very stable on outdoor environment, especially say in the patients who are not very good with balancing the wheelchair on the slope. This anti-tip bar prevents backward flipping of the wheelchair. Beyond a certain extent, the wheelchair will not fall backward once this anti-tip bar touches the ground. So this is one advantage. And next thing, even in a wheelie, it is helpful. Yes,
Excuse me, Uttara ma'am. I
yes.
think we can see the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah,
Yes.
now the slide has changed. Yeah.
Okay, okay, fine. So this is the anti-tip bar. So again, this is helpful in slopes and also in wheelie technique. Only thing is when an anti-tip bar is present, the wheelie tilt backward is going to be a shorter angle. It will not allow for a larger angle tilt. So the patients with lower level paraplegia with good abilities of wheelie, you may not need to keep an anti-tip bar. Patients with low stability in wheelie and on uneven surface and slope, you can give this as an additional advantage. One more thing to consider is the wheelbase, like how we have a base of support in terms of balance. Same way you have a wheelbase. Wheelbase is the horizontal distance between the axle of the rear wheel to the caster wheel. So this is the common type of wheelchair that you see. This is a short wheelbase wheelchair when the distance between both the wheels is lesser. So this gives minimum stability. If the patient is very good with stability, you can use this. If the patient is not very stable on the wheelchair on outdoors, you can prefer a larger wheelbase wheelchair. One is like the four-wheel larger wheelbase, like you can see on the left side. There are also wheelchairs available with a single caster wheel that has a longer wheelbase. So the advantage of these is the stability is a little more. The wheelchair will not tilt backward or fall that easily because of the base being bigger. One more additional advantage with the three-wheeled wheelchair, especially when the patient is, say, in a rural area, there is uneven, muddy surface, you don't have a cemented road. This wheelchair gives a very good stability and rather can be preferred for such patients who ride the wheelchair on a rural areas. Another consideration for outdoor mobility is the tire. So you have options of whether either a solid tire or a pneumatic tire. Solid tires go well on all stable surfaces, but if you have like uneven surfaces or muddy surfaces, it's better to go for a pneumatic tire. So based on the patient's history, where they are going to use the wheelchair, how and how much duration they use the wheelchair, amount of wheelchair skills, trunk control and strength, and environmental factors, you decide which type of tire will be most suited for the patient. If like you have a patient of rural area, you can prefer for a pneumatic tire. Again, one more is the quick release axle, the rear wheel center point axle. You can press it and pull the rear wheel off. So rear wheels both can be separated and the wheelchair can be folded. Cushion can be removed separately. So this advantage of removing the rear wheels separately and folding the wheelchair when the patient has to travel through a transport, like if say you saw the wheelchair to scooter transfer, the patient lifted the wheelchair on their own. Not everyone is going to be able to do, and instead of taking a help from someone, they can release the quick release axle, get the wheel on the side seat, then fold the wheelchair, lift the wheelchair to the side seat, which many of the patients of lower level paraplegics still manage to do independently when they're going on their own by a scooter or by car. So these features help for easy outdoor mobility. So other features you need to see are the modifications in the car. If the patient is traveling by a self-driven car, modified, they need to have certain features installed, and or otherwise if the patient has someone else driving and has to go by the car, these features are to be considered for modification. So one thing is when the patients have self-driven car, they have all the controls at the hand, the clutch, brake, everything comes at the hand control. So these modifications are available in usually in more on the major cities. In rural area, you will not have much facilities for these modifications. So once these modifications are made, the patients, even the spinal cord injury, paraplegics, even C6, C7 level of injury with use of their tenodesis grasp can ride the car on their own. Other features you can use is the rotatory seat. Like I mentioned, for wheelchair to car transfer, one option is higher level injury, they do forward lean. to get their pelvis lifted off from the wheelchair to car seat or car seat to wheelchair. If that is still difficult, you have a rotatory seat that the seat can be rotated and come a little outward. So the transferring into the seat becomes very easy. Once the patient transfers onto the seat, they can rotate it back inside the car. Same way for coming out, they will move the seat outward and then shift from the seat to the car to the wheelchair. So these features are very helpful. If suppose the patient is not driving the car on their own, you can use such ramps. Everyone must have seen movies. If you've seen Margarita with a straw, you can see such ramp was installed in the car. So you can have the ramp on the posterior side or posterior aspect or on the side door. This ramp can be pulled out and the patient can propel up on the slope. Other features are the wheelchair hoist. So wheelchair hoist is like you have a button operated. You just you have a hook. You just fix it around the wheelchair with the hook and strap and get it lifted inside the car. If the patient is not having that much upper limb strength, this is a way to get the wheelchair inside. So this way, even the patient who is driving on their own, they can have this wheelchair hoist from near the side door, side back door. They can sit on the wheelchair driver's, so on the car's driver's seat and have the wheelchair hoisted into the car. In case of patients with scooter, like you saw the scooter seat to side seat transfer, you need side supports of armrest and straps for better stability while sitting on the scooter. So for car driving C6 level onwards, patient is possible to be trained. For scooter below T6 level, like lower level paraplegia can manage to go by scooters. So now for the assisted device, say the patient has to go outdoors, but by propelling the wheelchair, so it's going to be tiring and it's going to be difficult if the distance is more. If the patient doesn't have their self-driven car or scooter or going commuting with someone else, or the patient is not using a public transport, they want to go on their own. Say one option is to propel the wheelchair all the way. Alternate option is to have other modes of mobility. So like tricycle is commonly seen. So this tricycle is easy and affordable. So the patients, when they travel a couple of short kilometers from, say, from their home to their workplace, they can use such tricycle to go to the places easily. So this is less energy consuming than propelling the wheelchair all the way for many kilometers. Other options are four-wheel scooter. These are battery operated, chargeable. So this seat is usually in such that it has armrest and wide seat and good support. So the patient is very stable on the seat. The speed of this may be around 6 to 10 kilometers per hour, depending on the model. So this comes as an easy option. If the patient can shift from the wheelchair to this seat, they can use this to travel around from, say, from their home to workplace, or within the workplace if they have more of movement around continuously. This is one option wherein they will not get tired and easily be able to move around. Other option is an electric assist. So this is also, like you saw in the previous image, this is also battery operated. This is like an attachment on the anterior side of the wheelchair. If you don't want a full four-wheeled electric scooter, you can have something like this, wherein you just attach the clips to the footrest hanger on the front side and you can ride it. So in this, what happens is the motor is going to get the wheelchair driven forward, so it is less energy expenditure and it is easier to travel for a longer distance. Other options are power assist. So this power assist motor is kept below the seat, base of the seat it is attached. It is connected to the rear wheel. So there are buttons to turn it on. Say the patient has to go outdoors for a distance and they don't want to propel the wheelchair, they just turn on the power assist. Once they turn it on power, just one or two propulsions of the push trim. After that, even if they let go, once they propel the push trim few times, the motor starts running of the power assist and it will take the wheelchair forward and the patient will not need to propel it forward. Only thing is they have to just control the directions. This is very useful if we're going for longer distances or if there are up slopes and the patient tends to get tired. These power assists are very useful, but the main issue is the cost and affordability of these assistive devices patient can afford and if they require it. These are alternate options to having a car or a scooter modified. So, in what way can the government help a spinal cord injury patient for being independent outdoor and have a community participation? So one of the major important things is a disability certificate. So disability certificate from the government is issued by specific hospitals in every district. So every district there are one or two hospitals depending on the size of the district where they have given the responsibility of giving this certificate. One way to figure out which hospital gives the certificate in your particular district is to ask the local tahsildar. They can give you the information, or you can inquire in the government hospital. They will tell you how it can be procured. So the spinal cord injury patients will come under the locomotor disability or orthopedic handicapped category for disability certificate. What they require to give is a filled application from uh, age and address proof, ID proofs, and passport size photos. And once they apply, they have to take an appointment for assessment. On the appointment, they have to take their full medical report records and investigations with them. They will be assessed, their medical records will be seen. If further assessments are required, the doctors might refer the patient to specific departments like physiotherapy or occupation therapy or a physician for further evaluation and further information. If the records are enough to understand the patient's disability, the disability certificate is directly approved. Once approved, the patient will get the certificate in 1 or 2 weeks. And usually in patients of spinal cord injury, usually since the day of injury or the onset of spinal cord injury, for the initial 6 months, the government hospitals don't give disability certificate as there is scope for recovery. Only after they go, after the 6 months period, they are assessed. If the patient has not been rehabilitated properly, they may be denied disability certificate and referred to a concerned department for rehab. That after rehab, they get the certificate, or they might be given a temporary certificate with a follow-up date. So during the follow-up, again based on the recovery and the disability, the certificate is accordingly changed as per the assessment. So one more thing, to drive self-driven scooter or car, to get a driving certificate, again these hospitals which give disability certificate are able to give it. First thing, the patient will be assessed by an occupation therapist for their driving fitness, whether they are fit to drive the modified two-wheeler or four-wheeler which they plan to. If they are fit, they'll be given a date for the driving test. They will be given a learner license. In the meantime, the patient has to modify their two-wheeler or four-wheeler, get their own vehicle for the driving test. The application will require application form, processing fees, photos, and ID address proofs that they need to give uh, copies and get the original for verification. In the medical test, when they get their, in the driving test, when they get their vehicle and they are able to drive it, then the driving license is issued. Other facilities available are the concessions. So the patient has concession on the railways, like in the first, second, and sleeper class, they have 75% discount on the cost of the ticket. In season ticket, they have 50% discount. The way to avail this discount is, first thing, they need a disability certificate, and next thing they need is a railway concession form. So railway concession form is something like this. It's available in English and Hindi also. So in this, what they have to do is, they can where they get the disability certificate. This is valid for 5 years. After 5 years, it has to be renewed again. So the based on their assessment, the disability certificate percentage of disability, the doctor will fill the details, put their signatures, their stamp, hospital stamp, and issue it with the date of issue, and they will mention till when it is valid. So after that date, again it can be renewed. There are also options of 50% discount on the airline and also in the bus passes. So these also can be procured if the patient has a disability certificate. So so the patient, if they want to go for an employment, they need a loan for starting off their small business or enterprise, or they need loan for their education. Other than the loans available from banks and uh, other sectors, you can also procure loan from the government side. This is a National Handicap Finance Development Corporation. They give loan from 5 lakh to up to 25 lakhs. at different categories, there are different amount of loans that are given. So the advantage for this is the interest rate is very low. Interest rate is 1% less for female patients with handicap compared to the male patient. And depending on the amount of loan, the interest rate tends to vary. So it becomes easy for the patient if the patient cannot afford higher interest rate. This is one of the options from the government which the patient can avail for the loan. And again, to have the loan, the patient should have 40% or above disability, should be above 18 years of age, and they should have, say, if they are taking educational role, they have to have basic qualification to apply for the educational course or a vocational course. Or if they are doing a particular job, they want to set up an enterprise, they should have the training that is required to do that job. Then they will be given this loan with ID, address proof, and application form submitted. So where you can submit is there are state channelizing agencies in different states. In Maharashtra, you have it in Mumbai, their office. There are other nationalized banks. There are three, so they can provide such loans for this national handicap scheme. So these places the patient can apply and avail this loan at a low interest rate. So what about the recreational activity? It's not just about continuing the education or continuing the job and being independent outdoor. Sports is also one of the very good factors which the patient can continue for recreation. Many of the patients are participating in Paralympic sports. It helps to improve their upper limb strength, trunk control, cardiovascular endurance, and it also has a benefit of having a lot of enjoyment. Even the patient's mental health and physical health both are improvised with the wheelchair sports. So what kind of sports you can train for the patient? You can see basketball, there are wheelchair crickets. So there are teams in regional and national level also for this. So if in your area, if it is not being done, you can start off with the center by having a recreational, sports playing by the wheelchair users, by the spinal cord injury patients. Gradually, teams can be formed, and you can have inter-region competitions, and further patient can go ahead with Paralympic sport competitions. So this advantage is patient is using the wheelchair skills, their upper limb strength, the trunk control, their endurance, everything is getting trained, and it really helps the patient because the patient enjoy it, and at the same time the patient is improving their skills. So other options that you have is like wheelchair slalom you can even create in your center also. So this has many different barriers or poles kept on the way, and there are some, say, slopes that are used, and there are arrow marking for direction in which the patient has to ride the wheelchair. Patient will have to go around the barriers, over the slopes. Sometimes patient will need to propel the wheelchair in reverse, forward, take turns, while propelling the wheelchair in reverse. So these arrow markings are there within which the patient has to ride the wheelchair. The person who does with most accuracy of maintaining the track and in shortest duration is considered the winner. So this kind of competitions also can be kept, and it's very good for training the wheelchair skills also in your center. Other options are wheelchair rugby. In India, wheelchair rugby is not well used. There are a few teams in Delhi. In other regions, there are not much people actively involved in wheelchair rugby. So wheelchair rugby is like how we have a football. So you have a goal post. There are two teams of 4 players each, and there are criteria for selecting players in each team, and they have to just get the ball to the goal to get a goal. Okay, so this way, these kind of competitions can be done if you can avail facilities in your center or in nearby gymkhanas, or if, say, any school or college has a sports ground, you can take permission and you can organize the sports training. So here you can see in our center, we have throw ball net and facilities. We have basketball. So even as a group therapy and for a sports training, we ask them to play. So this helps to have a good enjoyment for the patient, and at the same time the patient is gaining skills. Other options is you can even have games like swimming competitions also. They are conducted regularly. You can have even indoor wheelchair sports, like patients can play carom, chess, darts. Even we have javelin throw competitions also held. Sometimes we have competitions regional. Here in Mumbai, we have once in 3 years even a national level competition where we have like 200 or 300 wheelchair users participating. So it's good to meet each other peers and have a positive influence on each other, and the patients are more active. They are regularly training for these sports. Some of these patients are actually participating in regional or national level competitions and international competitions as well. These are the references. Thank you.
Thank you, Uttara ma'am, for your detailed and wonderful presentation. Now I request the participant, if you have any question, please raise your hand. If anyone is having any question, please raise your hand. I think the presentation itself, it was so explanatory that no one is having any question. Yeah, one question is there. Yeah, Shreyas, just unmute your audio and ask question.
Good morning, ma'am. You told us about the hang route, means the elevator to shift the wheelchair into the car. If the patient, if the hang route is at the backside, how it is a single. If the patient is single and he is going by, how can he go to his front seat by the back from backside, because his wheelchair is already kept backside, no?
You mean for the wheelchair hoist that I showed to get the
Yes,
wheelchair
ma'am.
into the car? See, the
Yes,
wheelchair
ma'am.
hoist, it can be screwed and fitted anywhere. It depends on the patient's requirement. It depends on the vehicle. Just for an example, for a clear look of how it is seen, I had shown from the backside. If the patient is going to shift to the backside, say from the wheelchair and on the back seat, and just gets it hoisted inside, so the caregivers don't need to take it in. If the patient is having self-driven car, they can sit on the driver's seat. You can have these wheelchair hoist, say on the backside side seat. Through that, you can make provision space to get it inside. Some of the patients, what they do is place this hoist on the top of the car, and they get the wheelchair hoisted on the top of the car also. It can be fitted anywhere. So these automobile showrooms which give these car modifications for disabled, you tell them where you need, how you need, they will guide you and they will get it fitted at that place. It's not necessary you have to keep it on the posterior side. You can keep it anywhere, from the side door, from above the car, anywhere it can be fitted. Okay. Only
Okay, thank you,
advantage
ma'am.
is it has a button operation, so the patient doesn't need to manually lift the wheelchair. That's the advantage.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
I hope, Shreyas, your doubt is clear now. Any other participant? Okay, so we are running short of time. I request our Vice Principal, Dr. Neeraj Kumar, to express a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Diwali ma'am. Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank our Honorable Pro Chancellor sir and Vice Chancellor sir to allow us for this webinar. It's a very important and interesting webinar, what I feel. Since we are also having a spinal cord injury center here, and our many of the faculties are taking care of this center. So this webinar would be very much helpful for all our faculty in dealing with the spinal cord injury related patients. Dr. Uttara Mohan, I'm extremely thankful for your precious time which you gave for us and our students and the participants. Thank you so much. And obviously, ma'am, the topic and the contents which you delivered today and the information which you shared today, that is very much useful for us, particularly the coverage of your environmental accessibility, like how to deal with the skills and features of wheelchairs, then the social participation is a very, very minute and small things which usually people usually forget to share. Like how to deal with the how to get the driving license for such person, how to get the concession in tickets, all these things, employment opportunities. These things are very much helpful. Obviously, we all gonna use this thing and apply here in the spinal cord injury center. And your cooperation in this future endeavor would be very much appreciable for us. And I would like to thank our organizing team, the spinal cord injury rehabilitation team and the neurophysiotherapy department for organizing such a wonderful webinar. And yes, the technical support from IT cell. Obviously, it is very much helpful for us in every webinar. They are working tirelessly for the success of every webinar. Similarly, this webinar is also this goes without any hiccup. Thank you, IT cell, and yes, the participants. Thank you for your patient hearing. And I'm again wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And thanks to the Pravra Institute for inviting me for this lecture, especially the faculty, Dr. Neeraj, also Dr. Dipali, Dr. Singarvelan for getting in touch and having this lecture. It was good interacting with you. And I've been hearing a lot about your center. So it's good to know each other. We can communicate in future and work more towards the spinal cord injury rehabilitation.
So today, with World Spinal Cord Injury Day, we are also celebrating Teachers' Day. So I want to wish all the students and all my teachers a very happy Teachers' Day, and whatever we are learning in our life of this part, we will be helping the patients, we will be helping our elders, and being a physiotherapist in our capacity, we will definitely try to bring the change in the world. And on this note, I want to end this webinar and I want to thank the participant and especially our today's guest speaker, Dr. Uttaramu. Thank you so much.